Ladies and gentlemen, I am known as Mr. Vicious. Remo Vinci!
Now it's on.
Has begun.
What's up, everybody? This is Mr. Vicious, Remo Vinci, and we are back with part 2 of my conversation with Delaine, 6Grymx of the Dro Bro Show. Say what's up, my brother. How you doing today?
Not bad. How are you? Happy Memorial Day. And to
Yeah,
all our veterans out there, thank you for your services.
absolutely. Thank you, everybody. As we are recording this, it is Memorial Day, and I do appreciate that. Thank you for that. Um, Did you, speaking of Memorial Day, did you have any festivities that you had going on this weekend with your family and all of that?
Just went camping up there in Fraser
Oh,
area.
beautiful.
It's like out by Fairplay,
It's
kind
nice.
of
Did
more by
you
South Park.
guys have a good time?
Yeah, it was good. I don't know if you could tell my face is a little burnt.
Yeah, I got a little color myself. Our oldest had some games this weekend, so I got some sun myself. So yeah, happy Memorial Day to everybody out there and to all of our veterans. Thank you very much. For those of you that had tuned in last week and got to hear the first part of my conversation with Delaine, we got into some pretty heavy stuff. But unfortunately, I had to make a quick exit, and we kind of cut you off right as you were kind of getting into when things started transitioning for you as far as your faith journey. Excuse me. Do you want to go ahead and dive right back on into that and let us know? You said that you had a friend that was transitioning, and that had kind of led to it. You want to go ahead and pick it up from there?
Yeah, but first and foremost, I want to get into that too. Like I've discussed with you, is that if the church is your spiritual journey, again, this is everyone's individual journey. So for me, I had outgrown the group setting at this point, and not quite fully at this point, but this is where I begin to outgrow the group setting. And so if going to church is your spiritual awakening, that's what works for you. It's what helps you get through your day to day. I'm not here to bash that by any means of the story or anything. This is just my own spiritual journey.
Yeah.
So, with what you said and the person transitioning, me having to feel a certain way about that due to, the church family I was a part of, okay? And I'm not saying that necessarily they all condone that belief system, but I get when you have a mindset, a group mindset, people tend to go to the more negative qualities of that mindset when it's in a group setting. That's why
Yeah.
they say that
Seems
people
to be,
are dumb.
yeah, it seems to be a bit more harsh and primal in those type of settings.
Well, have you heard the saying where people are dumb, but the individual is extremely intelligent? You know?
Um, I don't know if I've heard that particular phrase, but I've heard of similar sentiments. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's because it's referring to the fact that in a group setting, we tend to have more of a tribal mindset as opposed to an individuality.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so I guess back to that. Um, that led me down a path after feeling a certain way when I thought, I was on the right path, doing the right thing. I started asking more questions, those questions leading me more down a path that really couldn't be answered anywhere else. And I don't know exactly how I came across it. I think it had just been in my playlist, and maybe it was just divine intervention, you know. But I started listening to Dr. Robert Gilbert, and I kept hearing him mention Rudolf Steiner, who kept coming up too, and I really liked Rudolf Steiner. And through listening to them both, I started putting two and two together, that who he's talking about and who I was listening to. Then also listening to Manly P. Hall, Max Heindel. All of these men were Rosicrucians who taught publicly.
Yeah.
And so started to be able to answer a lot of questions I had, but I wanted more, and I knew that there's things they couldn't talk about because they're sworn to secrecy on. So after 6 days of prayer, straight prayer, I ended up deciding to join the order. You
Yeah.
know,
So
and
well, hold on a second. Hold on. Back up just a little bit. So was this people that were already in your circle that you had gotten involved with, that you had kind of reached out to be, in this new phase here, or this new brotherhood or whatever? Was there people already there that were in place, or did this all just kind of come about through you seeking it out and trying to find people?
it came about through me trying to seek it out and trying to find people. And that's why I'm saying it had to have been divine intervention. And
Yeah.
then what I had mentioned last time, that there's evidence that I'm on the right journey. Okay. And I don't know if I mentioned it to you before, but I really don't know how much I want to get into it. I think I might have touched on it on a different podcast before, but
Uh,
almost a week after I joined, I got visited by an angel. Okay, something very ancient, something that commanded respect. Nothing like what people expect at all. I'm not saying it was there with good or bad intentions. It was very neutral, very, I don't know, and just the presence of it and the whole situation, even though it was frightening to me, God
yeah.
darn frightening to me. And I never thought something like that would happen to me. And it took that step for something like that to first happen.
Yeah. So as this experience, did this, were you were you asleep, or was this something like throughout your active day? Like how did this situation come about, and what happened exactly?
I was awake, and when I was walking by we were staying at a cabin in Estes, and I was walking by the fridge, and I seen something, and at first it looked like a woman. Okay,
Uh,
I just seen it out of the corner of my eye, and I was like, "Oh, no way, this isn't happening. This isn't happening here."
so
But
hold on. So you already had some kind of like intuition of what it could be?
I didn't know until I could feel its energy. Like I stated in the last podcast, okay,
Uh,
the last episode, is that I can feel energies. You know what I mean? As crazy as that sounds, I could just feel essence, energies. And this thing that I felt was the most ancient thing I've ever felt in my life.
Huh.
Like older than what we can comprehend.
Okay.
And there
So
was a person I actually follow. Um, they're a medium of sorts, okay? And
uh,
they were talking about seeing angels and seeing other entities that are mixed breeds from the angels that have fallen, that don't know that they are, right? Because they have the ability to shift, but some of them don't know that they're shifted, right? So it's
I
like,
heard you mention this on another show before. Yeah.
so she was saying it's like an autopilot thing. Like, so our partner, Soul or Joe, he's really into the whole lizard people theory. Okay. That's a whole conspiracy out there. If you want, you people can look it up. It's not something I'm so
That's good.
into, but when she was talking about it, she was saying that, you know, how sometimes they have lizard eyes or the tongue or something, it just glitches, it shows it. She was saying some of these people don't realize it, but when you can see it and you're one of those people that are able to see it, they notice it when you notice that it's happening if you're looking at them.
Okay.
And I just thought, oh, this person, they're complete bullshit, whatever. At
Uh,
first, I thought I was listening to him thinking, yeah, maybe. But until this incident happened to me, because the way that she had described how angels were, I thought,
how
oh,
well?
it's cool. Angels.
Oh, okay.
I thought, oh, it's just complete BS. You know what I mean? I thought that's nothing. She doesn't know what she's talking about.
Okay.
But then it happened to me. And exactly what she said about them, commanding respect, and that they're not there for service of you. They're there to keep the divine order by any means necessary. You know what I mean? They're the soldiers. They're not here as our guardian spirit protectors, especially
So
the higher angels.
so was it like you were saying with the lizard people though, where it was like an acknowledgement of acknowledgement?
I think
Is
it
that
was
what,
an acknowledgement of being on the right path. Because see,
the
I
angel,
wanted
like
to,
the angel acknowledging you being on the right path?
yeah,
I see.
let's just say its presence gave me the acknowledgement that I was on the right path. It didn't say a word to me.
Yeah, okay.
It
Okay.
just basically looked me up and down and like sized me up. It like
Yeah,
smelt me everything. You know what I mean? Like it's trying to test me, test my will, my spirit. I don't know. Like I said, it was very, very frightening.
that's some heavy ass shit.
We don't understand what it's like when other beings can take control over us until they are able to.
Yeah, absolutely. And like uh this we had an experience one time with a few of our other friends, let's just say. And we had been experimenting with the psychedelics, so to speak. And we had an experience that felt like something that we all had acknowledged, that was some kind of otherworldly afterlife something, and we all acknowledged it. And I've never in my life had another situation that was anything like that, or anywhere near as impactful as that could be. Now, what you're describing here sounds like something along those lines. You were there. You shared that experience with me. Was am I far off here? Was there something similar to that?
No, and it's something I did want to talk to. I think we mentioned it on the Antone episode of the Dro Bro show.
Uh-huh.
I was kind of hoping that we would get more into it if we ever got Maya to come on. But
Uh,
yeah, so the incident um, that Rich is talking about is that we were chilling with our friend Ashley. What? Yeah, it was Jeremiah was there and Robert. Rest in peace, Robert. Um,
yeah.
and all of a sudden, this black smoke came in the room. And that's what everyone noticed, if you remember. It was like a crawling smoke on the ceiling.
I remember like a smoke dark figure type thing. And then I remember this communal sense and vibe or feeling of like family. I remember feeling like this overwhelming sensation of like camaraderie with all of you guys. You know what I mean? Like we were all there experiencing something together, that was like out of this world, and it was something that brought us all closer together. And I felt something to that degree, but to the magnitude. You know what I'm saying? And I,
Well,
I remember specifically like this dark figure in the hallway, and like this smoke that you're describing. Give me
so,
your remembrance.
so that's what I remember is the smoke, okay? And I remember us all saying, why is it all smoky in here? It looks foggy in here. What the hell?
Yeah, just like
And
on the ceiling.
yeah, and it was crawling on the ceiling. It was so weird. And I look over and I see a woman standing there with her arms crossed in the hallway. And I'm like, no fucking way, this isn't happening. This isn't happening. Because it used to happen to me as a child a lot.
Really?
And it, yeah, my whole life, dude. And my mom told me it was my gift when I was 19. So going back to that story, that my mom has the ability to see things too, but her visions of things are different than mine. Hers seem a little more on a positive aspect, mine seem more on a negative aspect. And maybe it's the yin and yang, and maybe it's because she was the feminine and I'm the masculine, right? And she
Uh,
said because she didn't do what she was supposed to, that so yes, this story is important because it was what guided me on the path that I ended up taking to join a Rosicrucian order.
yeah.
Uh, so she said because she didn't use her gift, she passed it on to me. And for me to understand it and truly be able to use it, that I would need to seek out somebody spiritual either in a church, a temple, somewhere, somebody that could teach me how to use that gift and hone it. And in this instance, I felt like I had gone as far as I'm going to go in that growth. You know what I mean? So that's what led me, after watching all of these things that, like I said, through divine intervention, basically led me to joining the order. But back to the story. When
Yeah.
I see this thing, and it's an older woman, and I don't mean to call it a thing because I still struggle with if there's ghost or not, but I can't deny what happened there. And so anyways, that's when, like what Rich was saying about the strong feelings of love and camaraderie and family.
Yeah.
And Ashley was there with her boyfriend Robert. And again, rest in peace, Robert. And I knew it was going to be an uncomfortable situation. And I just had to say it how it was because I couldn't really put it into words. And I started getting flooded with like images, if that makes sense, like having visual memories. And that's why I told you guys that night, like it felt like having your mind raped. And so I told Ashley.
Just for a second, I don't mean to cut you off, but honestly, it kind of reminds me, for those, I don't know if you've seen it. We just been on a little bit of a Patrick Swayze kick with our Joe Bro show recently. But the movie Ghost, the character that Whoopi Goldberg plays, she's like this psychic medium, and she gets overtaken, you know what I mean, by different spirits, and that's what happens. Patrick Swayze takes her over, and that's kind of what it reminds me of, is where when you describe these things, you know what I'm saying?
But what it reminded me the most of was that movie Stir of Echoes. I would say that movie had it the most right because remember, I went in the bathroom and I was drinking water and you guys were telling me I was white as a ghost. But back to the point where, okay, so after the memories, I tell Ashley, look, I got to tell you something personal and I hope it doesn't offend anybody. And she's like, yeah, go ahead. I told her, well, I'm feeling very strong feelings of love towards you. And everyone turns and looks at me.
Oh
And
shit!
I said,
You're
and
thinking
not
all
like
that
that.
stuff now. Go
I
ahead.
was
Keep
like,
going.
it's not that kind of love. It's more like a family love. And I told her, you wouldn't happen to have a grandma that passed away within a year to a year and a half. And she's like, how did you know that? And I said, you or your mom haven't been wondering if your grandma's all right. And she's like, oh my God, how do you know this? And I point at the picture on the wall, remember? And I'm like, it wouldn't happen to be her, would it? And I had only known Ashley for maybe a year at this point.
Yeah.
And she's like, how the hell do you know this? And I told her, because your grandma's here right now. And she's wanting me to tell you or your mom that she's okay. And I just remember the spirit saying thank you and disappearing, and all this weight came off of me. I had like a pressure holding me down on my chest. I just felt super sick. I was very nauseous. I ran to the bathroom, remember, and I was drinking all the water, splashing my face. And I can't, because I was super thirsty. And when I came out, that's why it reminds me of Stir of Echoes, because remember, every time he has an encounter with the spirit, Kevin Bacon, he always has to drink a lot of water because it like dehydrates him to
I
have
never
these
seen it.
encounters.
That's crazy. That is so crazy. And I do remember almost all of that. I remember I remember it being in the hallway though, and I feel like you were even saying like, well, she's right here kind of thing.
She was in the hallway at the end. Remember the hallways of the T like
Yeah.
that, and where the couch was sitting, where I was facing straight down the hallway like this, where the T was, and she was standing right there in the center of where the T would have been.
So crazy, bro. I just remember it being like all dark in there. And like that whole smoke cloud, sensation that we felt before that was like all kind of like got itself to one piece over there, and it was crazy. I apologize for the audio if I sound all plugged up. It's because I am. My allergies have been messing with me the last few days, and I feel like I'm all talking funny over here. So I apologize for that. But okay, so this situation that you had with the angel, it was something similar to this. So that, because I had experienced that with you before, and like I know for myself what that was like, I could kind of understand, and obviously like I believe you. But like to the everyday person and to some of our listeners out there, I'm sure they're like, this fucking guy, they're so full of shit or whatever, because that's
I
how I
know.
would feel. That's how I would feel. You know what I mean? But I was there that day and that night, and I experienced that same situation with you. So when you tell me again, like I said, when you tell me about this angel, honestly, I feel like I have no choice but to believe you, because you wouldn't lie to me about some shit like that. So go ahead and pick
Let
up.
me go to it first. What led me on this spiritual journey to begin with? And you know this about me because back when I said in the last episode that I was an agnostic, I didn't believe in anything. When I became a person of faith again and I regained my faith, people couldn't believe I changed overnight. And I know you remember this experience too.
I did have a similar experience, yeah.
And when I didn't want to exist no more, I was contemplating taking a bottle of pills. I mean, that's the honest truth. And I felt a presence come to me. The whole room was warm. It felt like a hug. And I heard a voice that said, I'm here for you, brother, and I always have been. And that moment gave me the will to fight, to continue moving forward. And it literally overnight gave me my faith back, you know, turned me into a believer. And so I've had these experiences. That's how I can tell. And when I prayed, I was praying for a sign. I wanted to know that the path I'm taking wasn't one that of contradiction to me and my spirit and to that of source, to that of God.
Yeah.
And like I said, with the presence of that being there, and I know it was an angel, um, I can just tell you it was something different than I've ever experienced. Dude, it had me sobbing. Like I
Yeah.
couldn't believe it. I fucking didn't think anything like that would ever happen to me. It's one of those moments where you're in the presence of something that you didn't think you were worthy of.
I
And
understand that completely also, because I've had very, very humbling experiences in my life that brought me to my knees and made me feel the exact same type of sentiments, where it's like you have this deep acknowledgement of something greater than me is definitely at work here. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
yeah, go ahead and continue. I'm sorry.
and so that's what that showed me that that was the journey I was meant for. And I think I said it in that last one where a lot of the things that I've done, what I've learned, what I've had to go through, I feel like it was all meant to happen for the reason that I could start to piece the whole story together.
Yeah.
So let's just say in an occult belief system, because everything has truth to it, but that makes it still but a half truth, right? So it means that portions of it are true, other parts of it are hidden. And according to occult beliefs, they call it the archangel Michaelic knowledge, right? Because Michael is the strongest of the archangeloi, and they reference it that way because if you're looking at it from the Hebrew perspective, and everything can tie back to the story in a Hebrew perspective, just with different names in a lot of ways. If
Yeah.
you look at most ancient cultures, so Michael was charged with this knowledge to give to humanity. And after the Tower of Babel, this knowledge was spread across the earth. And because of that, as an initiate, right? Because remember, these are the people that became the Templars, the people who gave the church their power, but then, due to being misled in many ways and through um, conspiracies, through the King of France, the Templars were executed by the Vatican and then became different organizations, right? Um, So this knowledge got spread around the world and it became the knowledge in many different cultures, many different religions. And in these occult belief systems, it's our journey to uncover these knowledges and use discernment to piece together all of the Michaelic knowledge.
I see. So, as soon as you got involved with the Rosicrucianism, this alternative knowledge and beliefs and understanding, like instantly started kind of changing a lot of things for you, right? Like opening a lot of, making a lot of synapses that you had already kind of had these intuitions with.
Well,
Is that what you're telling me?
exactly. And
Yeah,
there's a few things actually. So, for instance, where science is saying exact same thing that the Hermetic principles say, where all matter vibrates, right? Nothing is still, all matter vibrates. Well,
yeah,
science is now caught up to that, basically saying that you're these particles, but there's energy that holds us together. And through the double slits theory, we realize that particles only do what they're supposed to when they're observed. So the fact that I'm observing you and you're observing me, that's why we're here and our particles have made this shape that it makes right now. Okay, because we're under observation of each other and our own consciousness. Okay, we're observing ourselves as well.
yeah.
So because of that, we exist and we're able to see what we're seeing. So I've said it before, to see is to be manipulated,
Yeah,
right? Um, you only see 0.03, I think, of the light spectrum. So think about that. You don't see much of your life that exists around you. You're walking through it basically blind. Your other senses can feel it more, like the vibrational resonance. That's why I always talk about that. If you learn to get in tune with it, you can sense the world around you more than you can through your eyesight. And
that's some crazy, crazy shit to think about.
so,
Like seriously, again, to like the everyday person, just the concept of some of those things is like, what? You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? But I get it though. Like once you kind of start opening some of these doors and you start getting this type of knowledge to where it's starting to again make sense of all these other things that you have already been feeling and thinking and seeing and believing, it's hard to not see it that way.
so even the stuff that Terrence Howard's coming to the conclusion on, that he's saying on Joe Rogan, that people are like, "Whoa, is this guy really real or is he a nut job?" Right? That's like a big debate going on right now, because people can't fathom that an actor came out with this type of information. Is it real? Is it legit? Is this a ploy? Are they trying to confuse us?
Yep.
Um,
In society and social media these days, it's hard to know like anything anymore because there's so much bullshit everywhere. So when you see something from way left, it doesn't necessarily resonate the way it maybe would have 10, 15 years ago because everything is way left anymore. You know what I mean? So it's like, what?
but what he's saying aligns with occult esoteric teachings.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, so again, like you were saying, it started showing me things. But at first, I mean, it takes a long time to get to a 12th degree. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Over
sure.
5 years. So it's a lot of study. It's a lot of research. It's not just somebody giving me information. A lot of it's read, and
So,
it's basically proving to myself the environment I exist in, the spiritual entities around, and how to navigate through that. And so meditation. Let me clear up something about meditation that most people have a misconception of. They think meditation is about clearing the mind, right? You hear a lot of people say, "I got to clear my mind. I got to meditate." No, meditation is about understanding what goes on up here. You let the thoughts come through. You don't try to stop them. You don't try to change them. Just let them come and pass. The purpose of this is so you understand what's going on up here, so that when something's influencing you from the outside, you understand when it's happening.
I see.
Because we've lost the clairvoyance to see the spiritual entities that interact with us. We live in a spiritual matrix, okay? And the matrix that people talk about is, like I said, it's spiritual. We're not in a computer program, we're not in a simulation. We're slaves to um what's the word? Archetypes, spiritual archetypes. So when you give in to, say, said material things, or you give in to looks or things of that nature, right? The deadly sins. you're giving into these different archetypes. You're giving them power. And the Matrix failed us because instead of it just growing us, it has now began to feed off of us. And I feel that our teachers, like the Messiah, the one that people refer to as the Christ figure, I do feel that he was trying to teach us how to escape that spiritual matrix.
I
You know,
see.
how to ascend out of the control over it.
Yeah.
And through my studies, and I know it's hard for people to fathom, but see, you're taught one way. Exoteric is for the many. Esoteric is for the few.
Uh-huh.
And through my studies, I could tell you that this chapter of John, the most famous gospel in the whole Bible, is actually in secret an initiation ritual.
The
That
entire
according,
gospel itself.
yeah, that according to the teachings that all of the disciples, the apostles, the prophets, they were all initiates
Okay. That's interesting. But initiated into what exactly?
into the knowledges, the secret knowledges, you know, of our true creator. Again, the Mikaelic knowledge.
Yeah. That's interesting, bro. Um,
Because see, a lot of it had to be hidden away because it,
yeah.
look, I've said this before, and it's why it makes me somewhat uncomfortable to talk about some of the things other than what's been in public domain. Because
Yeah.
you look at the people that have taken this knowledge and done the wrongdoings with it. And plus, when people were genuinely trying to help other people, then the same leagues of people they were trying to help were the ones that would yell, crucify, crucify.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, there's a few different factors on why they decided to keep some of this knowledge hidden and why I feel that it's not meant for everyone. You have
Yeah.
to seek it out. You have to want to seek it out. Otherwise, you know what I mean? It's not going to grasp, it's not going to resonate with you in the same way if you're not looking for it.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, we've definitely had that as a reoccurring theme in a lot of our conversations, as far as like the knowledge and obtaining it, and those that are supposed to hear it, you know, and that whole thing. You had mentioned the Matrix a minute ago, and I know for most of us that may be listening, it automatically makes us think of obviously the movie The Matrix. But when you talk about this whole switch over transition into the Rosicrucian, it honestly made me feel it made me think of the Matrix before you had even started talking about this, because you had to somewhat let go of other things and you had to kind of make a choice. You kind of had, it was like the blue pill red pill kind of situation, to where you had to choose, am I going to continue on this path or do I go this way now? You know what I mean? And I feel like I wonder if you felt some of those parallels. Like, I don't necessarily mean with the movie, but maybe with the way the character would have had to deal with that kind of an internal struggle, because knowing you were living a certain type of a way, and now you were going to have to let go of all of that and start living another type of way. And that may be hard and difficult for most people to understand the magnitude of a type of a transition like that when it comes
Yes,
to as it relates to spirituality. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people transition in all kinds of different ways in everyday life. But when it comes to like our core morals and beliefs, I think it's so hard. It's hard for me to understand how some people could make that transition. You know what I mean? So it makes me think of what that internal struggle must have been like for you before making that decision.
it was extremely difficult to say the least, you know,
I
to
bet.
yourself, to the church, and to a church family, and to other believers the way that you had, and to make a difficult decision like you're saying it is. And the reason why I made the decision is because I understood that many are called and few answer, and everyone has their own spiritual journey. And I know this isn't the journey for everyone else, but it is mine.
Well,
And
you had already had this pre, I don't know, disposition or whatever of having this having to take on that role. You had already had these feelings as a child growing up of being the person that would eventually have to make that sacrifice to lift up the rest of us. And I feel like this step that you took was just the next evolution of that type of a mindset for you. And I feel like because of that, and because of your already kind of programming yourself to be that person and to be that dude, like I feel like you were more accepting of it too, you know?
But when you talk about the Matrix, it's funny because I love that movie. I always believed that, and I didn't realize it when it happened until you were saying it. I saw the parallel. Um, but it was difficult, like you said, because it was the fear of, is this going to change my whole perspective in a way that I'm uncomfortable with? Because I knew where my belief system was, where my faith was, and what I do believe. And that's why I was more willing to accept this way, is that it's more of a way of life than it is about trying to change who you are. It's about helping you
Yeah.
understand scientifically and spiritually the world you exist in, and not interfering with your other belief.
Yeah.
But it's helped me build a better foundation on it, and have a stronger connection.
Well, I know, like I kind of alluded to in our previous conversation, um, you have always been somewhat of an aggressive, almost forceful with your approach and your thought process as far as how you wanted to convey your beliefs. And you felt as though, you know, most people needed to adapt or adopt those same type of beliefs. And with this whole transition that you've had here in more recent years, it seems to be quite the opposite. And I know for one, like the evangelical lifestyle that most of us as Christians feel the need to adopt suddenly changed for you, and it became less intrusive, I guess, you know what I mean, and more of an understanding thing, which was honestly kind of a breath of fresh air, and it was inspiring for me. So it made me feel as though I was fairly uncomfortable with your transition and the whole, you know, dynamic of it all. It made it a little bit easier to swallow, I guess, because I saw this change. I saw this outward already positive change, you know what I mean, of what could be happening with you. And that also is what added to my belief that there's something to this. You know, we're all different, but who's to say who's wrong? You know what I'm saying? And
Exactly.
and it made me feel so much better, and it made me feel proud to understand that, proud of you and your journey and your understandings, and proud to be able to have that conversation between the two of us and it not become something that was a problem, you know what I mean, as it may have been in previous years. So I appreciate that of you, man, and I'm proud of you that you have been as open-minded as you have been, and as willing to share and spread some of your knowledge, but not be overbearing with it at the same time. You know what I mean?
Oh, I feel like, and like I said, the church didn't give it to me, but being in that church family mentality, and I've been a part of a few different churches, but I'm just saying that gives you that mentality, that you have that group mentality, right? Where you think that, oh, this isn't the same way that how we preach, this isn't how the same way that we do things, so it's wrong. And that's what people tend to do. And I guess that gave me that sight. It
Yeah.
helped me open my eyes. And like I said, it's not that I disagree with it. That if that's what works for people, then by all means. For me, what it taught me is that I outgrew that part of my journey, and I became more individualized in my journey. Because, like I said before, this is all our own personal journeys, our own personal connections with Source, God, whatever you want to call, our Creator. And I'm just saying that through that, I have attained a closer relationship.
And I think that honestly, we've already discussed it also, to where I believe a big part of your journey will kind of circle its way back because of the teacher that you are. You know what I'm saying? I feel like you still have this communal um, thing about you even when you're not even trying to have it. And I think that it's kind of it's like Vegas to me. It's flashing lights to me, you know what I'm saying? But I know, like, you're on your own journey, and it may be completely different, you know what I'm saying? But that's just something that I see as a natural transition. And the way that we're doing these shows, and the way that we're having these conversations, not just with each other but with other people, other like-minded or not like-minded, and still having the same outcome of understanding, respect, appreciation, all of that kind of stuff. Um, I mean, what could be wrong with it? And to be honest with you, I just see you already taking those steps of kind of circling it back again. And I feel like there is a lot of cycles that we go through in our lives, and I feel like a lot of times it's like a new checkpoint. You know what I mean? To the next phase of what may be happening, and what we're supposed to do in our journeys. So I honestly, I look forward to see what you have to offer, and what you're gonna add to any show that you're on, any relationship that you have, any of that kind of stuff, because you're all heart, Grim. You know what I mean? I've said it multiple times on multiple shows and in multiple conversations with just the two of us. Like, you have a unique aura and shine about you that I feel like is completely genuine, and it's hard for me to believe anything against that. You know what I mean? Hard for me to root against you when you're such a solid dude to begin with. So no matter what you're involving yourself in, I know that you have thought it out way in advance, because you're that kind of a guy. And I know that you're following your heart and doing everything with the best possible intentions in life. And I feel like all of that is commendable and it's inspirational. So I appreciate all of that. And I appreciate you sharing your story with all of us about how that's going. So,
So
anybody,
I
go
do
ahead.
have more thing, and it's because, it had to do with the order when I said that I began to learn where it was more of an individualized thing. So I'd often sought to seek people that could visualize things in the same perspective that I could. Maybe not to be as lonely in my process,
Yeah.
but in going to the order and talking with people, even people who have far ascended me, they thought I was more advanced than they were. And it really showed me that maybe I wasn't meant to join the order to be a part of a group,
Yeah.
but for my own individual journey.
And honestly, I feel like that's kind of how we all are in our own ways. I feel like our individual growth is only as impactful as it. I mean, our communal growth is only as impactful as our own individual growth can be. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like it all kind of intertwines with each other one way or the other. So I appreciate you for not being afraid to take that journey and to take it as seriously as you have, and to be willing to make the sacrifices that you've made to be on that journey. I think that's all very commendable. So I don't really want to get into too much more of it, because I know we're just kind of laying down the foundation as far as your backstory goes, and I know we're going to get into plenty more conversations as far as it relates to any of these spiritual uh, thought processes, or any kind of topics like that in our other show that's going to be coming up soon, our spiritual journeys podcast. So I kind of want to pivot, if you don't mind, unless you have something else you want to add to our spiritual part of the show.
No, that's fine.
Okay, because I would kind of want to leave it to where anybody that may have questions, which I'm sure there may be lots of questions for Delaine, please feel free to leave them in the comments, or tune in to our other show, which will be starting up here in the next few weeks. I want to do a few more introductions of some of my other partners on the show before we actually drop one. But I would like to pivot and get into some of our other stuff that brought us together, that's aside from our spiritual beliefs and understandings. But Grim and I also, we're longtime friends. We're wrestling buddies. We're into martial arts. We're into all kinds of different things. And your fandom has always been one of your big, what do I want to say, big defining characteristics of of who you are. So before we get too deep into it, tell me about like when you're real little and your first exposure into like pop culture in general. Like, what was the first thing that stuck with you? Because I know you're a Star Wars guy, I know you're a wrestling guy, I know you're all comics kind of dude. Like, you're all of the above when it comes to pop culture. So, what was the first thing that really grabbed your attention?
The funny thing you mentioned that I didn't know you were going to ask this question, and the shirt I wore today, which is my Thundercat
Is
shirt,
it Thundercats?
that was
Okay.
my favorite cartoon as a kid. But the first thing that stuck with me, and it's like a core memory, it's why it became part of my development as a character, as a person, everything. So actually just changed out of my Darth Vader shirt. My bank card is Darth Vader. I have a Darth Vader Lego on my backpack, and because when I was 3 years old, again in the last episode, I said that I could remember all the way back to when I was three. And I was 3 years old, and I got all my uncle's hand-me-downs because they were teenagers when I was born, and they gave me all their GI Joes and Star Wars figures, which is why I'm big into both of them. The
Okay.
first toy they ever gave me was a double telescoping lightsaber Darth Vader, and I'll always remember it. And it's why he's my favorite character to this day. It's why it's always stuck with me.
I think most of the Star Wars people that I know, especially the ones that are close to me, they're all Vader people, bro. Like that's their guy. You know what I mean? Like very rarely do you see like a Jedi person or somebody that like. I mean, everybody likes what was Darth Maul or whatever. They had
Uh,
the two things. Yeah, like
just to touch on that, and that's a spiritual thing too, is that Darth Vader's the only character that's human. Okay, he's the only one that's real. Everybody wants to be the hero like Luke, who he can stand his ground and say, "No, I'm going to be a Jedi like my father before me." And Vader's the one who thought about the others. He always thought about other people, and that's what made him have attachments. And that is why I say that he's human. That's why we can relate to him.
I
That's why
see.
people's favorite character.
Well, I know as we got into our conversation with Anton on the Drobro show, we got into a little bit of the Star Wars fandom and how he thought that he knew and then he was completely lost or whatever. I can't remember how he would put it or whatever, but I know you have kind of tried to work on it with me, trying to get me there and understanding some of that. And I had a real hard time with it for a while because I'm just not a Star Wars guy, you know. Well, now my son, he's a big Star Wars dude, and he would love it. He would love to hang out with you for a weekend and go over all this stuff, and you teach him everything that all of your knowledge, Yoda. He would love that.
Same with Gio. Like I told you, he wants to hang out with you.
Yeah, that would be dope, man. We could make a whole thing of it, and we could hang out all, one of these days. I would love that. Tell me about. We also had alluded on that one show about your creative juices as far as it comes with sculpting and figures and all of this kind of stuff. You had kind of got into it a little bit on that show, but give us a little bit on this show of how all of that started and when you started at collecting figures and when you started
This is actually a tattoo I designed and I colored, and it's a food dog because I wanted a food dog on me. But this tattoo represents, so you said what stuck with me,
yeah,
um, 80s baby. So if you could tell, the food dog, I made it look more like a cat,
uh-huh,
and I made it orange and green. And the purpose of that was is to reference my 80s background, and that's Battle Cat from He-Man,
okay,
but also representing the guardian spirit. So I tied two things into each other.
hell yeah, I like that.
But the collecting, it all started with wrestlers more, right? Because it was something
Okay.
I was not allowed to have, but something I was always into. My uncles got me into it. My dad did. I loved wrestling.
Now,
Um,
now, I was also a wrestling figure collector as a kid too. Did you have the big LJN, the big hard rubber ones, or did your collecting
so,
start with the little Hasbro's?
no, so I was about 3 or 4, and Brandon was 4 or 5, and
Yeah.
for because we shared the same birthday, and I got Big John Stud, and he got Rowdy Roddy Piper. and I always wanted the Hulk Hogan. I wanted the Macho Man. Never got them. Those are the only two rubber ones we had until I was older. Then I got more at about 10 years old. But at that point, I was starting to make money from babysitting and things. So I started to buy my own things. So then I
Yeah.
was able to get the little Hasbro ones that did the actions and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Because I was never allowed to have those as a kid. And
Oh,
I never, because they were too expensive. And it's cheaper for them to go and get
oh,
$1.50 He-Man toys than it was to get a $5 wrestler.
I
So
see.
um, that's why I wasn't allowed to have them. So when I was able to buy them, that's what I wanted to buy, what I wasn't allowed to have.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you remember some of those first Hasbro's that you got? Because those were the ones that I started collecting on. I'm sure I had a couple LJNs, but I don't remember any of that. In fact, the only big rubber ones that I do remember were WCW guys. I had a big Sting and I had a big like Stevie Ray or Booker T, one of the Harlem Heat
Oh
guys.
yeah,
And those are the only ones that I remember as far as the big ones that I had. But the little Hasbro's, what were they, like 3 inch, whatever, four
yeah,
inch?
3 1/4 or something.
Yeah, those are the ones that I remember. Do you remember some of the first ones you got?
I had Hakeem, I had Big Boss Man, I had Ravishing Rick Rude, the $1 Million Man in the suit. I had two different Ultimate Warriors. I
I
had The
had two
Rock.
different boss mans.
Oh, dope. And
I
I
had
had,
one that did this kind of thing, and then one that had the, or no, maybe both arms were free on that one. I can't remember.
mine did his arms came down like that. You know what I mean? But I had two different Hogans. I had a few of those ones. But the biggest collection where I got into was the bone crunching.
Okay, so that was like the next evolution of them, right? When they went to Jax or whatever, right? Jax Pacific. Okay, so hold on. Before we get into like that evolution of it, when did you start collecting some of the other stuff? Because you're a big Star Wars collector. You're a big like any kind of comics, Batman, all of those kind of comic figures. When did all those come into play?
I did, and if I get them as gifts, then yeah. But I don't know, man. It's been a while. With having kids and stuff, that stuff's expensive. You know how it is.
Yeah.
So really, I limited my collecting. I only collect wrestlers or Star Wars right now.
But
Because
I'm
the thing
talking
is,
as a kid though. When did you start collecting the other stuff as a kid though? Was
no,
it
but
around the same time?
um, the comics were a big part of my life because of my dad. I grew up watching the Incredible Hulk, that Captain America movie, the Wonder Woman TV series, the freaking Adam West Batman. I
Yeah.
watched all that stuff. That gave me my love for comics. Lost in Space, all of that sci-fi and older stuff like the Munsters, all of that. Watching it with my dad, it again, I guess maybe when my parents got separated, it made me real nostalgic for the memories I had with my dad that were good memories.
Yeah.
So that's where I feel like my attachment to comics came. And then I became a comic book reader when my parents were divorced. There was nothing to do in Brush, Colorado when I was a kid, but there was this little comic book store. So I'd make sure to go there every week and I'd go buy comic books. And my mom would let me do it to give us, because, my parents went through a divorce. So as a parent, you're just trying to do what you can so that your kid doesn't feel, this whole big thing from the separation of losing a parent.
Yeah.
So that also got me into comic books. You know what I mean?
Oh, cool. Now, when did again? We kind of talked about the customization of them. When did all of that start happening? Because you crack me up every single time to where it's like you'll see something and it won't be accurate, like it won't be
So
historically accurate or whatever it may be, and right away, like that's what you're gonna do. You're gonna fix it.
what started it, and this is what brought me back to collecting, because I didn't collect for a number of years. I gave it up. Like I said, with having kids and stuff, it's
Yeah,
an expensive hobby, so I gave it up. But what brought me back to it was the art part of it, and the reason for it is because during the Attitude Era, like literally right before it, like before Austin did his whole speech at King of the Ring, that's where everyone says that the Attitude Era jump started. So literally right before that, in that era before when Austin was fighting Dude Love and all of these things were going on, you know what I'm talking about.
yeah,
They were doing all these different build-ups before I started customizing the wrestlers because I got tired of waiting a year, 2 years for the guy to come out with just a goatee, or he got a new tattoo, or he changed his trunks. And wrestlers do it quite often. So I started with wrestling, started sewing. Like I remember the vibrating WCW figures. Yeah, I don't know how the hell they made those.
Right.
but and sold them to kids. But the Kevin Nash, I sewed him a hoodie. And see, I started with wrestlers because at first I didn't want to destroy my things, but I started with the wrestlers because they changed so often that it was the most logical thing to update. And if I didn't like it, you know, I could just get another one. I guess I could have done that with anything else, but in this instance, it was more suitable because they do change so often.
So you would sew the clothes, you would paint the actual figures themselves, you would add the sculpt to them. When did the sculpt start? Was that from the very beginning too? The sculpting part?
No, everything came as a progression. So first was the sewing and painting. Then it was the removal of hair and replaceal of hair. And then with that came started to sculpt. I started to get brave enough to sculpt. Same with the facial hair. And then I started removing parts. And now I'm at the point where if I have to, just heat up the joints and stuff, pull out the pins, pop off the joint, the piece, put on another piece, pop the pins back in, and you got a whole different. Like if I don't like that calf, how it's fitting, I could change it out, put on different kick pads, whatever, change their body parts.
That bro, that takes it all to a whole nother level. And takes me that well, hold on a second. That takes me to my next question with you though, is like, have you ever thought about actually taking that to the next level? Like working in some kind of a field like that. Have you ever reached out to any toy companies or anything?
I mean, I could really. Everyone's been telling me to put them up. I tried it a few times on TikTok, Instagram. It's all right. Like everyone says, though, I'd have to have my own page that was specifically only that, nothing else, and then maybe it would hit better with an audience. But putting yourself out there with customs, that does potentially get you noticed. I was approached by this guy. It was prior to COVID at a comic book store that I still go to now. It's now called Out the Box. It used to be called Pop, though. And the
Oh, I
guy,
love it.
uh,
One on 104th and Huron, right?
yeah, he
That was a
talked
great
to me
story.
about entering into a custom contest that he was going to hold at the Denver Comic Con. But COVID
Oh,
happened. We lost contact. He sold the business to the guys operating the shirt business out of it, and that's
yeah,
Out the Box now over
yeah,
there.
we know those guys too, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
they're dope.
dude was
Shout
a real
out
good
Anthony.
guy, man. I hope whoever, I don't remember his name or anything like that, but I hope he lands on his feet. He's a real good guy, man, and
Yeah,
he was really cool, and that story was pretty awesome. I missed that story.
it was. So no, I haven't gone that direction. It would be something I would be interested in doing, like designs or development.
Bro, honestly, I've been saying this for at least 15 years. You need to do it. You need to get in touch with somebody, reach out. If anybody knows Matt Cardona that listens to our show, send him the information, tag him in the episode or something. Um, Grib has lots of pictures on his page. Don't you have pictures on your page still of some of the figures you've customized and all of that?
I do. I do. On
So
my Instagram
anybody
and
that's
TikTok.
interested, I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was just saying my Instagram and my TikTok.
So yeah, anybody that may be interested and would like to check this out and see just how talented this dude is, check it out. And anybody that has any kind of openings into some of that business for our brother here, send him his way. Because I mean, somebody with this type of talent and passion should be doing the things that he's talented and passionate about. So um, I also wanted to get into some of your other pop fandoms as far as like movies go and some of the other things like that. Like we're big martial arts guys. So when because you used to be a martial arts as a kid, right?
Yeah, I've done Taekwondo. Brandon and I studied Jeet Kune Do and Kung Fu together. We read the book of ninjutsu from the Grandmaster, Stephen P. Hayes, um, which breaks down a lot of the different movements, how to run on leaves, how to hold a katana. the purpose of the reason why ninjas stared at a flame, all of these things. What started it was my mom, because obviously she's Korean. So her coming from an Asian country, she brought a lot of Bruce Lee movies. So I watched that and a lot of the Bruce Lee and all of that kind of movies when I was a kid. Chuck Norris, all of that. Steven Seagal, even though I'm not a huge fan of him, which led to Jean-Claude Van Damme and so on, to Tony Jaa, Jet Li, all of the more modern Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
Some of my more favorite movies, though, they're not martial arts, they're not comic. You know, my absolute favorite movies of all time, my top three. But if I had to pick a top five, but my
You
top
got 5 for
three,
us?
I do. But my top three would be Everything Everywhere All at Once, The
Uh-huh.
Fountain, Cashern. Those are the three. So The Fountain and Cashern.
Now
Then
remind me, Cashirin, again, which one is that?
it's a live action anime one. It's so sick though.
Okay.
You've seen it with me before, but I don't think you understood it. It was one of those ones that where he
Uh,
fights robots and shit with his hands, and he wears the white suit, and it's
I
after
don't
World
remember
War
that at
III.
all.
Uh,
I don't remember that at all. And it was probably 20 some years ago when I didn't even know what the fuck was going on. So
the other two, which would fall in that martial arts category to an extent, would be The Crow. I've loved The Crow since it came out, dude. That was one of my favorite movies till the other three came out, and then
I'm with you on that.
the next one would be Jet Li's Unleashed. Dude,
Oh,
beautiful
you threw me
story.
a curve.
I love the Mozart and the soundtrack, how it applied to the story. You know, I just loved everything about it. Sick as
That's
hell.
the one with Bob Hoskins, right?
Yeah, and where Jet Li's the dog.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to rewatch that. It's been a while. I honestly thought you were gonna say Ninja Scrolls.
No, I like it, but that's a messed up movie. I don't think that's one of the better ones. For a first anime, it was sick,
Uh-huh.
but it's not. I mean, it's one of the first animes. It's not
Yeah.
the first, but it's what defined anime. I wouldn't say it's one of the best, because honestly, if we're going anime, my favorite anime are Rurouni Kenshin or Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Okay. Now, obviously, I'm not an anime dude, so I'm glad you dropped that for our fans that may be anime people. But I do remember back in our days, you talking about Ninja Scrolls, and you and Dunis, that was kind of one of the ones. So that's why I
We
felt
both
like you could go with it.
we both like Dragon Ball Z a lot too. Me and
Uh-huh.
Brandon, which the twin dragons. You
Yeah,
know.
no doubt. Hey, B, you need to be a guest on the show one of these days, my brother. I miss you. It'd be nice to chop it up with you. Uh, so before I let you go, I want to get into a couple other little things before I play this game with you. You mind? You got a few more minutes for us here?
Um, yeah, I got a couple more minutes. I don't know how much longer because my phone's already below 10%.
No doubt, no doubt. We'll make it as quick as we possibly can here. We had already kind of got into some of our wrestling stuff on other shows and other podcasts, but I would like to touch on it just for a second on this show. Uh, what were some of your first memories that you would like to share with us as a wrestling fan and favorite moments of your fandom?
I mean, I know you and I were at a wrestling event together, and we got to see my uncle, who I drew the Daniel Bryan Yes Arms for,
Yep.
and we saw him down there in the front row, and he got to shake Daniel Bryan's hands. And you and me, sitting in two different areas in the stadium, saw my uncle walk away, going yes, and we
Yep.
talked about it and laughed about it. Remember?
Yep.
That's something personal, but
That
as
was a
far
good one. I like that memory. That's a good one.
moments that I remember as far as wrestling, I definitely want to say the ladder match is one of the top ones. The WrestleMania 10 with Shawn and Razor. It
Razor.
wrestling for our generation,
Yeah.
big time. And then Shawn and Bret Hart's Iron Man match. Really two big matches for me. And see, that's where you and I had our rivalry. Is that you're a Bret Hart guy and I'm a Shawn guy. So
Absolutely. And like it's funny that you mentioned both of those two shows because those are the first two Manias I watched live, and those are like perfect little bookends almost as to where my childhood fandom all kind of culminated at. You know what I'm saying? Because WrestleMania 10, was big for Shawn, but it was also big for Bret. That was his two big matches, when he won the title for the second time. Then WrestleMania 12 was big for Shawn, but it was also big for Bret. You know what I mean? Because it was, probably the greatest match he ever had. So, there's just so much to be said about those two and their rivalry. And I've loved throughout the course of our relationship and our friendship, our little back and forth with Brett and Sean also has been a lot of fun.
And there's a lot more, but I just want to put it to those two. They really defined my aspect, my perception of the way wrestling should be. I mean, the Iron Man match, hands down, that was a phenomenal match between both competitors.
I agree. I know there's a lot of, I guess there's a certain percentage of the wrestling community that hates on that match and feels like it's terrible. I know Conrad Thompson, for one, says it's one of his least favorite matches. So that's kind of crazy to me, but.
But to put on a show for an hour, that's a good ass show.
And to keep you on the edge of your seat like how they
Yeah.
did too the whole time, that's a work of art right there. So yeah, I agree with that one. What are your thoughts on like the growth of wrestling and where it's at now, and where do you see it moving forward? Because there's a lot of changes that have been happening and are continuing to happen.
I think it's going the entertainment route like we've all been seeing in recent years. I do like that it's going that route because in order to compete with sports like boxing and UFC, you really have to go this route because now, and I mean, me growing up, I always knew wrestling was fake. And to me, it never bothered me because maybe I grew up in the whole 80s and the territories, all of that. So it was different in my perspective. But in nowadays, people just want to see real. And because wrestling's fake, the only way you're going to promote it in a better light, competing with these real sports, is going the entertainment route. Because people love TV, they love entertainment, they love drama.
Now, I don't know about you, but to me, it kind of feels as though they're all kind of merging into the same thing now. Like UFC and WWE obviously have kind of merged under the TKO banner. And you see what Jake Paul is doing with boxing right now and how a lot of the boxing promos are kind of wrestling promos. You know what I mean? Like it's.
I love that you brought up Jake Paul right now because I was just watching him talk about him being born to be a heavyweight and Mike Tyson. But I want to reference his match with Logan Paul and Cody Rhodes at this King and Queen of the Ring that just happened because you mentioned it in our Joe Bros podcast that they changed the camera angles. They did. And it was literally like watching a movie. I mean, just the way that he did the splash off the top rope, everything, how the camera angles are, how they move the wrestler.
At the
It's
Saudi
like
show?
a movie. Yeah, it's so sick though, but it's definitely more choreographed. Even the cameras are involved.
Well, with the a talent like Logan Paul, I feel like those are. I mean, he's less than 20 matches into his whole career, so I feel like because of the expectation now, it's almost like Shane McMahon. You know what I mean? Like every time he came out, you have this expectation of he's got to top the last shit he did. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what has to happen with Logan Paul now. So I can see how easily that can happen for it to be, over choreographed. So I agree with the whole moving towards a more like entertainment aspect. But then again, that's kind of been the name of the game for the last 40 years. You know what I mean? All right, I'm back. I'm sorry for all the technical difficulties. We did lose Delaine. He lost the call. His phone died. So now we're back. We were just pretty much wrapping up the interview, but I wanted to get into our very last segment, our favorite segment of the show, this or that. So I want to get your this or that's real quick, my brother, and then we'll end it with the song. You ready?
Yeah.
This is rapid fire. There is no right or wrong answers. I'm just throwing two names at you. You pick this or that. All right. So I picked out a few special ones for you. So here we go. Ready?
Yeah.
First one, Stinger Taker.
Ding.
Sting. Then Bruce or Tony?
Bruce.
Bruce. I knew it. Pastor Troy or DMX?
Pastor Troy.
Oh, that's what I thought too. Okay, Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool or Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man?
Wow, that one, they're both good. I'm gonna go with
Yep.
Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool
You're gonna go with Deadpool? Okay.
because I don't
I got a couple last ones for you here. Flower or cartridge?
flower.
Absolutely, my bro. Hell yeah. Okay, last one for you, real quick. Me with hair or like this?
I like the hair look, but I've grown to like it how it looks now too.
Okay, so that one's a wash. The last one's a wash. Well, thank you, my brother, for playing this or that with me. I try to get every one of my guests to throw down a couple cool ones. But I do have one last request of you, my brother. So far, I have gotten one other person. For those that remember Keisha, she threw a cool track to add to our little playlist here of our vicious interviews. So I'm asking you, give me one song, don't matter what it is, but a song that you would like to add to our playlist.
Can I do two?
Oh, that's a stretch. Okay, of course I'll let you
If
do two.
not, I'll just do one. But it was just because they're the perfect duality. One I
No,
feel is sad and one I feel is good. But the one that I would have picked is the stick figure so good, okay? Because they use the same rhythm
uh,
as Gary Jules's Mad World.
okay.
And that one's a sad song. See? The other one's an upbeat song.
What's the other one?
No, that's the two.
Oh, stick figures and then so good.
No, stick figure so good and Gary Jules's Mad World.
Oh, Gary Jules, Mad World.
Well,
Okay.
you don't have to put it on there, but I'm just gonna say that those two are the perfect dynamic of duality.
No, that's awesome. I mean, this episode was a two-parter, so why not have two songs to go with it? You know what I'm saying? It just kind of works. So anyway, my brother, thank you so much for sharing your story, for opening up with us and giving us a taste of what we're going to be expecting or what we're going to be able to expect from our other shows. Um, I'm excited to get into these conversations with you. I'm excited for you to be introduced to some of the other guys that are going to be involved. I feel like there's going to be a lot of spiritual growth and a lot of inspiration that comes from this. So everybody, please stay tuned. This is something that's near and dear to my heart, and I'm only talking and dealing with people that I feel like are going to help us uplift each other. So thank you for that, and I look forward to it all. And I'm looking forward to our Drobro show this week too. We got a pretty cool topic this week, so we'll have to let you guys in on that as soon as possible. Also, are you and Joe dropping your new episode of your what's that called show yet, or was that still to be determined?
Yeah, still to be determined.
That's okay. I know you guys got a few in the can that you're just trying to take your time with, and I'm excited because I know there's some good ones there. So, Delaine, Grim, my brother, thank you so much for being my guest. Thank you for working with me through all the technical difficulties. This has been a crazy couple weeks, couple episodes. We've
Yeah,
had some strange cutoff points, but for those of you that stuck it out with us, also thank you. I appreciate it. Please listen to our other shows and check them out. And if you like them, subscribe. Give us some likes and comments and share it. Share it with your people. Your people, I'm sure, are our people. You know, we're all intertwined one way or another. So everybody that's listening, please give us a like and a subscribe. It really does get appreciated. And any questions, any kind of comments, Delaine has had an interesting story. So anybody that may have something they want to ask him or talk to him about, he's an open book. So feel free.
and
Anything else you'd like to add there, my brother?
I look forward to hearing the other two co-host
Yeah, it's gonna be
and their
awesome.
journeys.
I got two other guys lined up, Deacon Josh and then my brother AJ. So y'all will have a couple more people to be introduced to soon, and I am very excited to get their journeys as well, and so y'all can meet them, and then we can start this other show together. It's gonna be awesome. I have a lot of high hopes for it. So anyway, my brother, I love you very much. Thank you again. And this has been yet another episode of our Vicious Interview series, which will, oh, by the way, which will soon be under a new banner. And I had kind of hinted to it in the last episode. And I had thrown it out there to my brother Delaine here, and I told him, I was thinking about rebranding, and he had the perfect idea for it. And he threw it right back at me, and I loved it. So be on the lookout. Be prepared, everybody. That's going to be coming soon. I hope y'all like it as well. And I guess that's it, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again, my brother. I love you very much. And we'll talk to Grim next time.
God bless.
Look for us on the Dro Bro show and on the other shows. And God bless you all as well. Thank you. Later, my brother.
Later.
For more reviews, shorts, and interviews from the Vicious Network, check